What's up, everybody? I just came across possibly the biggest news in the history of the world. We're talking end of days stuff here. So maybe if I ask nicely, the YouTube algorithm will put this out in front of the billions of people that want to hear this information. Literally everyone of an Abrahamic faith wants to hear this, whether they know it yet or not. So this is something I've been keeping an eye on for quite a while. And nobody knows about this. I just stumbled across it in a lecture that this guy was giving about 30 minutes in, and it's his advanced class, so he kind of accidentally spilled the beans in front of everybody. But first, let me explain exactly what's going on here so everybody's on the same page. I'm just going to play a segment of a video I did back in September, and here's what was known at that time. They had 3 perfect red heifers, which I'll explain in a minute, and they were supposed to come of age to qualify for the sacrifice by October 15th. And then this happened 1 week prior to that date, and somebody just happened to make some very savvy stock purchases, almost like they knew this was coming. So the ritual of the red heifers has been postponed ever since, allegedly. So any dates that I mentioned in this clip were coming from September 3rd. You might be a little concerned about what these rich, powerful people think. So it doesn't matter if you believe in the Bible, they do. And right now they're in possession of something that they haven't had for over 2,000 years, according to the official timeline, however long ago Jesus really was. And that is not 1, but 5 perfect red calves that are potential red heifers. So let me explain here. They say from the time of Moses to the time of Jesus, there were 9 perfect red heifers total, and there has been 0 since then. Numbers 19 talks about a purification ritual where the Israelites are to bring Moses a perfect red heifer without defect or blemish. And the short version is that it's to be sacrificed and the blood mixed with living waters, which just means water that runs. And this can be used to purify a priest. This is required before any Judeans can, I guess, even step foot on the Temple Mount. I guess I'm not so sure about that part, but it's definitely necessary for the building of the 3rd temple. And just so you know, right now, the Muslims control the Temple Mount, and they have their most holy church, the Dome of the Rock, on top of there. Now, this is supposed to be the location of Solomon's temple, the first 2 temples, and I'm not going to get into the theories about whether or not that's actually the right place, but let's say it is. In order for the Judeans to get their way and build their 3rd temple, the Dome of the Rock has got to go. So that's going to make a lot of Muslims really angry. That act in and of itself could start dub Trey. So they took them to a secret location, and they've even been training priests how to do the proper ritual. They've been practicing with goats. And now we're a month away from them being old enough to qualify for this ritual. The location of this is important too. It's required to be on the Mount of Olives overlooking the Temple Mount. And once again, the American rancher and his partners have purchased the land on Mount of Olives that qualifies. So they've got the red cows, they've got the priests raised since birth in a special manner, which I'll talk about in a minute. They've got the land, and there's a bunch of other arbitrary rules that nobody can seem to really agree on. But I did hear that this has to take place over Passover. I've heard others say that it doesn't have to happen at that time. But they were coming of age around October 15th, and this happened a week before. And I thought for sure that this was just a cover so that they could perform their ritual and set things into motion to have a bigger conflict so they could justify removing the Dome of the Rock. And I know the Al-Aqsa Mosque is the technically holy one, but people know what the Dome of the Rock is. But there's been a lot of speculation since October what was going on here. I know if I waited thousands of years, I wouldn't wait an extra day and risk them getting a blemish or something. I do remember hearing one guy a couple months ago that was a little too adamant that the internet rumors were all wrong that this was going to take place. But then the other day I was listening to a lecture from this gentleman, and he said it was his advanced class, so I guess he figured he was among friends, and there's no way a gooey would be listening 40 minutes into a lecture, right? And then he said this.
It may be the same with the Paraduma. Right now, they've got cows, red heifers from Texas. They flew them in. And next week, like we're living in biblical times, they're planning on killing them and making the ashes you need to purify people. That's crazy. That's not happened in thousands of years.
Okay, so one more time on that.
Right now, they've got cows, red heifers from Texas. They flew them in. And next week, like we're living in biblical times.
I don't want to wear out the K word there, but yeah, he's saying that next week this is going to happen. And he is a rabbi and someone that would be in the know about this. This was posted on April 2nd of this year. And Passover started April 22nd. Now, he said it would be in 1 week. So he could have been a little excited and jumped the gun about the upcoming Passover. But also then again, like I said, not everybody agrees that it has to be done during Passover. But there's all kinds of disagreement about everything there because according to some, they aren't allowed by God to have their own country until the Mashiach comes. But they tend to do away with the inconvenient commandments because, well, 1948 came around and there was still no Messiah, but they got a homeland. There are a lot of people that are very serious about this. They have the Temple Institute, which is dedicated to building the third temple. And there are a lot of very specific items that have to be used. They have to have the priest's breastplate and a special crown. And if you go into the Temple Institute today, you can see all of these items that have been prepared for use in the third temple. They are not replicas. They're the real things planned and designed to be used. And kind of officially, unofficially, everything's already been prefabbed to slap together once they have the Temple Mount cleared. So I think all the stone blocks are already made. One of the statutes is that you're not allowed to use iron tools at the site. So pretty much like any ancient stone structure, they cut it and prefab everything there at the quarry and then number it and haul it off. They even have children that have been kept in certain circumstances their whole lives to qualify as priests for this because they can't be ritually impure in any way. One of those impurities is that they can never have stepped on a grave. There's something that they refer to as graves of the deep. And what that is a grave that's unknown. It's been buried and lost, but it's still down there and you can walk over it and become ritually impure without even knowing it. So what it says on the Temple Institute's own website is that these children have been raised in a complex that is carved out of bedrock so that there's no chance that anybody was ever buried underneath there. And I'm telling you, some of the interpretations of the laws are just so pedantic. So I've heard several different versions about how they get the priest from that complex to the Temple Mount to perform the ritual. Some say they can get in a car and just drive right up to there, and that's not stepping foot on a grave. While others have gone so far as to say that you need to take 2 donkeys and strap a plank between the 2 of them and have the priest sit on that plank. But we are talking about some people that have a holy book that has a story in there of how their holy man was smarter than God and knew better than God what he wanted, what his will was. And God finally had to admit that, hey, my creation has bested me. The other invisible elephant in the room here that I still find supernaturally amazing that I've never heard anyone talk about this, but they are crystal clear that their Messiah is going to come back and build the third temple, and then all of the nations are going to turn against them, and they're going to have to, with God's help, wipe out all of the other nations. While in the Bible, the book of Revelation, it's crystal clear that they don't actually call him the Antichrist right there, though many people use that term. What it says is that the dragon will give power unto the beast, and then the beast will rebuild the temple and be worshipped as a god. And anyone who worships that beast or receives the mark of the beast will burn forever and ever. So how is it that the exact same person is both Messiah and Antichrist, and everybody's worshiping the same God here? And the Bible says that Jesus will war against the beast in the temple, while they say that their Messiah will war against all nations and conquer them. All I can figure is there's some supernatural camouflage over this, and it's been veiled. Everybody's minds has been made dull. There have literally been billions of people throughout history read these texts, and I've never heard one person say, your Messiah is our Antichrist. So I'm all ears if you want to explain that one. One last thing about what comes next, and he's talking about how the big conflict will start.
That is mentioned in the list of Ezekiel the prophet. And we know who that is. Paras, Persia.
Persia is modern day Iran. They've been egging this on for quite a while now. So it sounds like the 7 years of tribulation have started. If it were me, I wouldn't tell everybody the exact date of when things had started, and I would have kept everything as low key as possible. The Bible also talks about the covenant with the many. It's a peace agreement that will be made and then broken after, I think, the first 3.5 years. Well, in September, they're going to have the UN Pact for the Future that, for one thing, will give them ultimate authority if there's another toilet paper crisis. And I'll talk more about that in a future video, but it does match up pretty well with the covenant of the many. So are we in the final days here? Is this the last 7 years of tribulation? It sounds like they set the ball in motion here. So we'll see. Static out.